Hi, my name is Grace Cisna. I'm the CPA on staff with ProjectionHub, and today I wanted to take a little time to walk you through our primary care physician template. This Excel template is going to help you create financial projections in both annual and monthly formats, as you can see here. And I'm going to walk you through how to use the template today. So right away when you open the template, you're going to notice that there are several tabs. First a couple in orange, and then the several in light blue, and then the rest in green. The light blue tabs are for you to input your data. There is example data already in these light blue tabs, and you'll notice the light blue cells are directing you to areas where you need to input or fill out or update the data. So let's start with the Input Assumptions tab. On the Input Assumptions tab, you can set such assumptions as your business name, projection start date, the amount of personal investment or outside investment that's going into the business, accounts receivable terms, which in this case are shown as average days until collection. Any inventory you have on hand, fixed assets such as your building, furniture and fixtures, any equipment that you have, and then loans as well. So all of those items you're going to input on this Input Assumptions tab here. Using the data as an example for how to input data, that is not necessarily any sort of industry standard. That's just showing you what kind of format we're looking for. The next tab is the Input Revenue and Cost of Sales tab. On this tab, we're first going to show how you're going to build up your patient base, and then we're going to walk through your services and pricing. And then the model is going to do some calculations to boil down to your total revenue as well as your total cost of sales. So starting at the top here, there's an area for you to fill out your current number of patients. And then your advertising budget is going to get pulled in. This is determined on the Other Expenses tab, which is the next tab here. You'll see advertising as the first line. And we're going to pull in this data that you enter here and pull in the advertising budget all the way across. So with the advertising budget, we're going to look at an average cost to acquire a new patient, which for many medical practices is around $200. So we'll divide 5,000 in that first month by 200 that is, and then we'll get our new patients from paid ads, which is 25 in this case. Another source of patients, new patients, would be organic patients, so word of mouth, referrals, etc. And for you, that may be a larger source of new patients as opposed to paid advertising. You can enter the estimated organic patients here, and those can grow over time, and this is for each month. And then the model will add together the new patients from paid sources, paid advertising, and patients from organic sources to get us to a total number of active patients. There's also an area for you to enter the maximum number of active patients, in this case 1,800, which is, you'll note here, we have a link to show you what you can expect for a maximum number of patients for a primary care provider. And your number of patients will never go over that value. Once we've set your sort of patient base here, we're going to scroll down to types of services that you will be providing. So in this case, we filled out several examples for types of services. You'll fill out your average fee, and then you'll determine your number of patients that will need each service each year. So right now we're looking at what an average patient will spend in 1 year. You'll see that the model calculates for you, once you entered all your services and percentages, your average annual spend per patient. In this case, it's $489. And in this model, the average patient visits your office 2.47 times per year. And you'll note that this number here, the 2.47, will update as we change. For example, let's change this to 90%. You'll see now it's up to 2.77 visits per year. So the percentages that you fill out here, it's going to show you how many times a patient is visiting your office based on the inputs that you put. And then we've got a note here that the average American will visit their primary care doctor 1.5 to 3.9 times per year. In addition to the revenue per patient, we're also going to look at the supplies cost per patient. So for each service, the supplies and materials, if you've got vaccinations, the vaccination cost, maybe the adult routine physical has certain costs associated with that. So you'll enter that for each of those different services here. And then the model will factor in the revenue here for all of those services you provide, and then we'll also calculate the cost of supplies down here. You'll see here we've got some reference lines here. Average percentage fee reimbursed depending on patient mix. So obviously as a primary care provider, you're getting paid mostly by insurance companies, so you don't necessarily get 100% of what you bill. So you can enter that estimated amount there. And then we also have this estimated calculated patients per day, and that's to help you think about how many patients you'll be able to provide. So right in month 60 here with 1,800 patients a day, your active patients, you're going to be serving about 19 patients per day. So you can estimate the feasibility of that on your own. Once we calculate your total revenue, we're going to look at your other expenses, so the operating expenses for building the model. The first of which is advertising, we've already discussed. And then we've got some other expenses in here. You can drop them into a category. This category is only used on the investor dashboard. So if you're wondering where that flows through, we'll talk about the investor dashboard a little bit at the end as well. We've got some suggested expenses built in here already. Note that we're always looking for monthly amounts. We've broken out the first 3 months separately so that you can enter any startup costs associated with your business. And then once you get to month 4, we're going to start to lump them together. So for example, here in column H, we have $206 for utilities and internet for the remainder of year 1. That means $206 for every single month for months 4 through 12. In year 2, it's going to be $212 per month. So these are still the monthly amounts, even though we're sort of calling them the yearly amount. That way you don't have to enter 60 individual items. You can just enter this many here. Your effective income tax rate is also down here. We always recommend talking with a local tax professional to figure that out. The next tab is the salaries and owner draw tab. So any salaried employees you have, you can enter here. You can enter their job title, their salary amount. We look at employer taxes, any benefits, and then you can do their month started, month ending. Month 60 is the last month of the model, so they will always end on 60, if not before. And then the number of this particular employee. So we've entered 2 separate nurses here because one is starting in month 1 and one is starting at the beginning of year 2 in month 13. But if you have 2 starting in month 1, you could just put a 2 here rather than entering that same nurse twice. We also have an area for your annual raise. And you may choose to pay, if you are the physician and the owner of the practice, you can either pay yourself a salary or you can pay yourself through owner draw, so drawing cash funds out of the business. That is up to you. And again, we always recommend chatting with the tax professional about that choice, but you can enter salaries up here if you choose to pay yourself that way, and also owner draw down here if that is how you will pay yourself. Once you've filled out all these light blue tabs, you don't have anything else to do. That's all you have to do is fill out those light blue tabs. And then these green tabs will update on their own with your financial information as you filled it out. So we've got the at a glance tab, which is some nice graphs and charts, which are ready to be pulled out and put into a pitch deck. Or they're just great to look at, a great summary of your financial data. So profit and loss at a glance, key ratios, a break-even analysis, etc. And then we have 3 different financial statements in summary format. So we have the income statement summary, the cash flow summary, and the balance sheet summary. And these are going to show the end of the year for 5 years. So we've got your net income down here, your earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization just below that. Then, of course, all of your revenue and expenses up here. We have the cash flow summary, which is very similar to the income statement, but there are a few items that show up on a cash flow statement that do not show up on an income statement. And those are mostly in this section down here, cash from financing and investing. So that's cash from new loans, cash from new investments, cash paid on loans, and cash paid for fixed assets. All of those things are cash transactions that are not necessarily revenues or expenses. So they end up on the cash flow statement, but not the income statement. The next tab is the balance sheet summary. Now, one of the hardest pieces of putting together financial projections or financial reports for yourself, obviously, is getting the balance sheet to balance. Our balance sheet is always going to balance for you, so it's designed to pull through all your financial information correctly, so you're never going to have any issues with trying to get your balance sheet to balance. So we've got all of your assets on here, cash and inventory in this case, fixed assets, real estate improvements, all those items, and then your liabilities, and then whatever portion of your assets are not attributable to either the bank or your accounts payable, that is what we call shareholders' equity. So that is shown at the bottom. And those same 3 financial statements are shown again, but this time in the month-to-month format. So you'll see every month for 12 months here, all the way through for 5 years. And this is really handy if you want to see a more detailed breakdown of how you'll be making money for each year, as well as your balances for all these balance sheet items each month. That is the financial statement overview. And then we also have the investor dashboard, which is a new feature for all of our version 2 templates. So the investor dashboard is here to help you or a potential lender or investor see how sensitive your model is to different assumptions. So we enable you to change certain assumptions to see how that affects your income statement. So you can see below we've got an original income statement and a modified income statement. The original income statement is just a summary version of this income statement summary using those categories we set on the other expenses tab. So you're going to see the same net income down here that you do on the income statement summary. And then the modified income statement is based off the assumptions shown in light blue up here. So the assumptions in white are the ones from the current revenue model. And the ones in light blue are what's going to determine your modified income statement on this tab. So this enables you to play around with major assumptions of the model, see what changes on your income statement without having to change everything that you've gotten neatly set up in your financial model. So it's just another way to sort of see different scenarios and see what might happen if you change your average annual spend per patient or your expenses. And that's just a great tool for you or for an investor or a lender. That is a brief overview of our primary care physician template. I just wanted to point out that we are available to modify these templates or fill them out for you. I actually developed this template and I do most of our template modifications. So if you reach out to us, you'll likely be working with me directly. You can reach out to us at support@projectionhub.com and I would be happy to help you get this template filled out. If you've got questions, we can get those answered. Or if everything looks good, but your business model is a little different than the one we show in this model, we'd be happy to modify that for you. And often we can get those things turned around in just a couple business days. So it's really quick. Don't hesitate to reach out. We'd be really happy to work with you. Hope you enjoyed this brief overview and thanks for watching.